So good afternoon, everyone. Today, I'm super excited to welcome you all to the panel discussion on the gigantic impact that artificial intelligence has on the insurance sector. Today, we are very lucky to have an expert panel of industry leaders who will be sharing their insights on how artificial intelligence will be revolutionizing the insurance industry. So let's get started with brief introduction of the panelists. So could you please introduce yourself, your role, and your background in artificial intelligence? So Nan, would you like to start?
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Nan Lee. I'm from Nationwide. We're on your side. I lead the AI machine learning and statistical practice at Nationwide. This is my second time working for Nationwide, so there's a story there. But I've been in this field for over 20 years. I feel really grew with industry when industry started with data analytics, right? Data science. I was the first one actually moving the job family in our company. I left, came back. Now I'm leading the AI machine learning and statistical practice. So my group, I'm part of the enterprise analytics office. So we develop and deploy advanced analytics solutions to all the business unit function across enterprise. So we're centralized. So my responsibility, primary support the claims area, but I'm also responsible for risk management, model governance, best practices, life cycle management. Those are all too dear to my heart.
That's great. Thanks, Nan. Yasir?
Hi, everyone. Yasir Ali. I'm the founder and CEO of a company called Polymer Data Loss Prevention for AI. We basically monitor and prevent PHI and IP data from exfiltration into AI models, malware injections into code bases, and companies building chatbots will be using our APIs to guardrail against their trained machine learning models not spewing out stuff untowards to their customers and employees, as well as they're warning their customers not to put in stuff if they ever do so. My background, I actually was running a master data management program at Voya Financial when this idea came about, the MVP of the product came about, from the pains of doing master data management from legacy mainframe systems in the insurance space. We were trying to do digital transformation, and the complexity around building a warehouse that goes stale day 2 of going live, and thinking about unstructured data and how best to handle it has been in the DNA of the business from day 1.
Thanks, Yasir. Kemi?
Good afternoon. How is everyone doing? Day 3. You still all look very cheerful. That's a good sign. If anyone finds themselves sleeping, don't worry. Somebody next to you will wake you up. But good to have you all here. Kemi Nelson. I lead the data products and strategy tools departments for Liberty Mutual. Does everyone know Liberty Mutual? Don't make me sing, Liberty, Liberty, Liberty. Only pay for what you need, which, of course, that's obviously, excuse me, assisted by AI. My teams are responsible for creating the strategic vision and overseeing the execution of everything related to data product tools. So data science tools, analytics tools, platform tools. And this is a very good topic. This is a topic of passion of mine. So it's lovely to be with everyone today. Prior to Liberty, I've been in the banking industry, Capital One, GE Capital, and USAA for 20-something years. So excited to be here. Every one of those were in data and analytics. So.
Excellent. Thanks, Kemi. So last but not the least, myself, I'm Sreya Francis. I'm the head of technical innovation at Farm Mutual Re. So we are a reinsurance firm based in Canada. So my journey has, started in the industry, doing applied AI research, and then I moved to academia, doing core AI research, and then back to industry. So I have worked on diverse AI projects spanning from privacy-preserving machine learning AI research, federated learning, causal machine learning, blockchain, and natural language processing. So right now, me and my team keep on exploring innovative technologies to automate different processes within the insurance industry, specifically claims, underwriting, and reinsurance. So that's it about me. And now that we know the panelists, I would say that I'm very impressed by the breadth of expertise of our panelists today. So let's move to our first question. So how do you leverage AI in your organization or your client's organization? And it would be very nice if you could take us through one or two examples of that so that we can understand the impact that AI can have on those projects. So Kemi, would you like to start?
Sure. And I will talk in general because, as you can imagine, some of those things are very confidential and IP protected. However, I've been with Liberty under a year, and I've been in the industry longer, so I do have examples to give from all over the industry, both banking and insurance. So insurance, I think the biggest value proposition that AI has had for insurance is really with intelligent insurance, which is what we're here to talk about. An example use case would be with segmentation, with pricing, claims. Has anyone had a drone drive over their house for a property claims? Well, don't be surprised if you live in places like Florida, where cat season can be very active, or even California with fires. If you have a property claim, it's not unusual to get a drone to do the evaluation of the claim, and before the insurance company would adjust the claim and go through the relevant processes. A lot of that obviously is empowered by AI.
Thanks, Kemi. Yasir?
Sure. We've been using natural language processing from day one of the company. Part of the remit was understanding what's in the document, what type of IP, what type of trade secrets, and then even PHI and PII data, detection and then redacting it in real time within the documents and images themselves. So OCRs and managing all sorts of data types has been kind of in the DNA of the business. But one thing we did learn in terms of deploying this at like dozens of companies, definitions of two insurance companies or even two companies selling to the same verticals, what it means to be sensitive, what is this PHI from one business to the other will mean vastly different. So allowing that last mile heuristics of if these conditions are met, maybe name, date of birth, and ID, that combined will be a sensitive data, not just name itself. And that heuristic, applying that is something we had to build into the application to kind of reduce the false positives. As you can imagine, natural language processing by itself out of the box can be very, very noisy.
Thanks, Yasir. Nan?
As you can see, actually, insurance actually is where we start, right? We are rooted in using math and model to make the right recommendation for our customers. So that's, I would say, the oldest use case for insurance, right? But over time, I would say my experience, a lot of the AI use start with marketing. A lot of company has, how can we acquire customers? What's the right product for them? Actually, we do have a product help. You can go to agent to find out what you need. Also, maybe you want to sell service, right? We can recommend product for you, not just for one, but a variety of things, access your total risk needs to protect your life, your asset, or your property. And then another core of insurance is claim. Talk about claim is a pretty complicated, human-heavy process. Interesting. When I got back to insurance, it touches every aspect of your life. Unlike the technology company, everything's digital, right? We ask about your driving record, right? There's about your property, where you live, if you have life insurance, all this. So we touch everything we claim happens. It could be property information, could be weather information, could be traffic, accident. So actually we have a rich data information, and sometimes it's difficult to manage them. So we master the numbers already through traditional. Now moving to also the text will be next one. There's a lot of information through claim adjusters, through talking to customer, and so we definitely want to harness that information to accelerate the claim process. And we also use that for fraud detection. right? How they describe, but you have to piece all the information together. It's right, and I'll say the last one is within now we can automate the process, looking images, other things. So there's a variety of use cases. Like I said, I cannot go too deep into details.
Thank you. So as for me, I would say that to add on to what Nan, Kemi, and Yasir explained, we also work on automated risk assessment platform. So with that, what we do is, we collect data from satellite imagery and IoT sensor data and financial data points so that we can, train the model to understand historical data patterns so that, when we have properties that are insured under us, then we can better easily predict the impact that climate change can have on any of the properties that are insured under us. So then we can adjust our pricing accordingly so that in the end, we would not have a big impact of catastrophic losses. So another use case would be AI chatbots. So when we say chatbots, usually it's all about enhancing communication. But another point would be, like in Canada, we are bilingual. So then people speak French and English, but not everyone would speak French. So we might not have enough resources to tend to a customer that speaks only French. So then if we have a multilingual chatbot, then that would be very helpful. And another use case would be the chatbot would be connected to another AI model that can, that would be processing data. So then, for example, if a client wants a risk profile for a potential claim, because he or she wants to, make a decision whether to file for the claim or not. So then, in that case, the chatbot can automatically provide a risk assessment report based on maybe geopolitical factors, market trends, and the data that it has been trained on. So yeah, these are some of the use cases that come to my mind right now. And yeah, I think that's it for the first question. So now that we have an idea about different ways in which AI is implemented in the insurance industry, I would like to touch upon risk. Because with any AI system that's been implemented, there are associated risks with that. And so I would like to know the panelists' perspective on potential risks as well as how we can mitigate them. So, Yasir, would you like to start?
Sure. That's kind of our business. Looking at risk, when you look at kind of the common, the media, the risks are getting kind of like mixed in terms of biases, in terms of model data toxification. But when we look at risk, we feel, just look in the industry, the most denominator of the risk is sensitive customer and patient and company data leaking through these chatbots into external models or external parties. And for us, like when we are looking at defining LLM risks, it's in terms of reducing that exposure radius, either via people using ChatGPT, external chatbots, or companies building their own chatbots, as I was saying before, which is going to be the biggest, where we're going to see the most amount of investment in the next 18 months by organizations. The chatbot will be the tip of the iceberg. The most of the investment is going to be built on the data modeling and the data, enterprise data getting hooked onto these systems. Some companies are going to build their own. Some companies are going to ship their data to external parties to host their chatbots. In all these cases, though, there's a lot of like cloud infrastructure that's going to be used. There's a lot of data for training that's going to be going in and out. A lot of it's sensitive data. So even before the chatbot gets released to the market, there's a risk of sensitive data leaking. And when the chatbot is released at an enterprise level, in terms of how we're already seeing signs in terms of how chatbot are being arbitraged into giving out information or being weaponized against providing malware, which can get inserted into code bases already. Those are risks that are like already happening and actively every day you see something new. So protecting against kind of those, if you are an enterprise, your chatbots start spewing those things out, that's a big liability issue. So the legal ramifications of these chatbots, we're talking to general counsel, we're talking to law firms around that. is huge. So our footprint in terms of where we're looking at attacking the risk vector is monitoring for PHI, monitoring for IP, and stopping and redacting and warning users around that, as well as any malware that could be inserted into your software supply chain. So in GitHub or other platforms which your developers are using with Copilot or other LLMs to copy paste code into those environments, we have releases around looking at that code right before it gets committed to make sure there's no toxic code into your environment and your repositories making its way through.
Thanks, Yasir. Nan, would you like to go next?
I'll say we're in the risk management business, right? There's two things I want to talk about. One, we're a heavily regulated industry. If anything goes wrong, there's a regulator looking over us, so be very careful. Another one, the risk, when we deploy models or AI solutions, we're not dealing with product recommendations, nice to have, we're dealing people's property, right? Their lives, their wealth. We have to be extremely careful about the potential impact. What if it goes wrong, right? Do we have another way to mitigate that risk? Right? If I need to rebuild my house, I don't get a payment, or if I don't have the connection, what happens? So we definitely care about customer, not just because for the sake of technology. Technology help us make it process and experience more efficient, more pleasant. But I think the people aspect, I think that's unique to our company. We want to be the most caring and effortless protection comes for a customer. So always keep customer first. What's the potential impact? Do I have a plan B? Right. If you implement AI models, sometimes say, oh, I train the data, it's okay. Have you tested extreme value? What if you get some abnormal value, extreme things that happen once in a million times, but it happens? That impact a person, a real person in life, and their livelihood, right? And their family. So that is huge. Do you test out different scenarios? Do you constantly monitor the drift in your model? I would say another thing is look at your data. I will talk about claim area. It's heavily labor intensive and very, there's no standard almost. Every claim is different because every family, every person, every business is different. And the situation is different. So the data may not become as clean or as standard as you think. And even the business process that generate data may be different, right? When you use the training data and when you put in production, your real data may be different from your training data because there's change in the business process. There's change maybe in, I would say, local process or traffic, for example. That might impact your model performance accuracy. So you have to be very diligent, constantly monitor your model and tweak it over time.
Can I just interject? I think the one thing which I will in steady state technology projects, you could look at the edge cases. But in the environment where the board is screaming down the throat that we need an AI strategy, you probably cannot check for all the corners. And there will be releases of these models where not 99% accuracy will not be checked for. So I think this time is a little bit different, where the pressure is going to be high to release stuff without proper vetting. And disclaimers might only go so far, this guy.
I think that's actually a good segue to how I'm thinking about it. So risk is not a bad thing. We're in the business of, risk management. I'm in insurance. That's what we do. Risk has to be balanced by rewards. So I think that's the first thing I really want to emphasize. Risk is not a bad thing. If you choose to remove all the risk from a business, you might actually be removing all the reward from that business as well. So as long as the reward outbalances the risk and that the risk is not an ethical risk, I think it can be a smart risk. It can actually be a rewarding risk to take. So I just want to put that on the table. The other thing is, I think of AI risk in general, maybe I'll think of it in 3 dimensions. One will be on a global scale, I'll talk to that, local scale, as well as the ethical. I really want to emphasize on the ethical. That's the non-negotiable risk that I think we all as technologists owe humankind to do it right. Because sometimes, and I feel that we're in such a polarized world right now, everything is on polar opposites. You always have one place that you gravitate to. Technologists cannot afford to do that because we cannot be part of an echo chamber that is just echoing a wrong message or excuse me, or situations that cost people their life or that make them feel different, the wrong profiling, stuff like that. I feel that as human participants at the table of humanity, we owe that, period. So the ethical, I think that's non-negotiable. Now, when I think of the local risk, so bringing that down a little bit, like I said, risk reward, you have to be balancing that. And from a data standpoint, the way I see it is you have to think of the risk right from when the data is being created. Think of the entire data life cycle throughout the data management circle, that DAMA produces. Think of it from your creation all the way to ETL, ELT, feature engineering, I think is a very critical part of risk management because you can clean up appropriately in that section. And of course, the production of the models themselves, there are a lot of tools that help with risk management in that space. And MLOps, I think, is a very important hygiene for risk management, because model drift. I mean, things change. Like Nan said, you might have training data that look very good, and then in reality, it's drifting. So model performance management, model risk management, I think are super important across, the entire thread. On a global level, I'm still going to go back to, again, keep in mind risk rewards, and transparency. I know AI models tend not to be as transparent because of the IP, because of the differentiation that you want to achieve competitively, but at a global scale level, I think a level of data democratization actually helps with risk management. What do I mean by that? I think everyone understands what data democratization is. Let the right people have access to the right data, but even bigger than that, I personally like to bring my attorneys to the table early in the process. If you're gonna say no 10 months from now, just come and say the no, let's figure it out together now. That way, I'm front-loading sort of the challenges and hurdles and also bringing the talent to the table that helps us flush out things that I may not have thought about, that my team may not have thought about. So bring those people to the table early. Those legal experts, they're very opinionated, and I'm sure you all have worked with them, the compliance experts, bring them in early so that you can proactively manage the risk and, of course, use the right tools.
That's great. Thanks, Kemi. To add on to that, I would say AI models have an inherent tendency to reinforce existing biases. So it's important to see to it that the data is not biased. And for that, one important thing would be to have a diverse team.
Very well said.
Thank you. So another point that that I always keep in mind to mitigate such risks would be to see to it that the data is anonymized and properly vetted before training any AI model, so that there is no I wouldn't say there is no, but the leakage of sensitive information is reduced to as much as possible. And another point would be to always have human in the loop. So no matter how automated the system is, it's always important to have human experts monitor the system. So another point would be like with technologies like Gen AI, it's always good to have adversarial testing. So you have outputs, so then you should just do adversarial testing to see to it that the outputs being generated are not biased, and also that no misinformation is being generated. So it's only after doing such testing, multiple testing phases, that you should put it to production. And another point to add on to what Kemi told, transparency and accountability. So AI explainability is in itself, is another branch. But then other than that, like if you're dealing with vendors on, some minor POCs or pilot projects, then I would say it's important to have transparency when it comes to discussing the model architecture that they use and the training data, because that is something that people always miss out. If you don't have experts in AI within your team, you would just go for the product. You wouldn't ask for the training data. And that is important because it's your responsibility to see to it that what data is being used to generate that model. And also the decision-making logic. So these are all things that we can try to understand so as to enhance transparency and accountability so that we can mitigate risks while deploying AI systems. So yeah, that's it for the second question. So now we'll move on to our third question. While implementing AI systems, right, and then we have multiple phases of testing, and then we decide, if it is a success, then we decide to scale the system. So I would like to know the opinion of the panelists on best approaches to go about developing an AI system from scratch and scaling the system if that is feasible. Nan, would you like to start?
Sure. I will start with actually end in mind, right? What outcome are you trying to achieve? Who's going to be impacted? Who will be using this? And what value we have? That outcome will largely drive the design of the system. The outcome will dictate how much scalability, how much automation, how much accuracy, how much intelligence, how much money you want to put in to build that system. So having, I would say, the end in mind is number one. Second, I would say focus on designing, focus on discovering, focus on planning upfront more, actually save your time and money at the end. If you rush to build something, it costs money, come back, you have to rework the whole thing, right? Getting alignment, having, observe, I would say what end user will be using, how they experience, what behavior they look like, that influence the design of AI. So I feel AI talk a lot, even though I lead the team, but personally I'm interested in psychology. I will say having understand human behavior, psychology, that really help us put in AI in the best use and help with your adoption.
That's great. Thanks, Nan. Kemi?
Yes, I couldn't agree anymore. I think you nailed it. Clarity of objectives right from the onset is super important. Now, of course, being flexible and adaptable because things change. We're in a fast-paced VUCA world. Things are changing very quickly. So being nimble for the changes is important. Starting out, however, with a clear strategic direction is just a non-negotiable. The way I have seen that framed the best is, what problem statement are you solving for? We're not just jumping after this new flavor of the day. What is the exact problem statement? I liked what you mentioned earlier. In the business of insurance, I actually think insurance is more a service. It's truly like, it's an enhancement. The way I think of it, I live in Texas. If I were living on a border city, there will be a lot of uninsured motorists. Insurance is how we protect the community for those situations. So it's actually a service to humanity. So being very thoughtful about what problem statements am I looking to solve with this solution, I think is super important, and it will help play down the lane for scaling, for adoption as well. Once you have clarity with objectives, the planning, I think, is super important. Technologists, we like to go into execution. This quote is attributed to Albert Einstein: plan for 29 days, execute for 1 day. I don't think that's realistic in this day and age. However, I'm still a proponent for spend enough time, probably 50% of your time planning, because then you can take your time to evaluate the architecture you want to build. Again, being nimble, because changes will happen, that's guaranteed, but you would have identified your R's and O's, your risks and opportunities, and you can actually build a better product for your stakeholders, whoever the stakeholders might be. Now, alignment is part of that planning process, right? You must have a sponsor. Many of the adoption nightmares that we've heard about AI in different companies has been because there was not a clear alignment with the business sponsor. That is worth whatever time you spend on it, because they are the ones earning the revenue. They're the person to convince that there is a case for change. Here is why. Here is the problem statements that we've established, and here is why we need to solve it. Here is how we're going to solve it. That person is going to be a lifesaver throughout the life of the AI process. excuse me. And all those things really are helping to build towards scalability at the end, helping to build towards adoption. Of course, you should have metrics. I don't want to talk too much about the technical aspects because those are like table stakes. They're given. Your ticket to play, you should have your evaluation metrics, performance metrics, and so on. But I think those elements are the ones that quickly come to mind. I want to make sure that you, Sreya, as well as.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, great points. Thanks, Kemi. So should I go next or?
Yeah, please.
Okay, thank you. So some points, that I would like to add on to what Nan and Kemi told would be, one of the major issues that that I've faced in the insurance industry would be to align with the stakeholders, right? There is big resistance from different stakeholders because they are not used to using innovative technologies. So it's important to take the time to discuss with them and have proper change management and have learning groups, so that learning programs, so that you can educate them about the importance of these technologies and how we will lag behind if we don't adapt them right now. And we also have, reading groups every week, so that, we can discuss about latest technologies being developed in the insurance domain, so that everyone, it pikes the curiosity of everyone in the company to adopt these technologies. And another point would be, interdisciplinary collaboration, because there is, when it comes to AI implementation, we have an inherent bias that this is something that the AI team would do or the innovation team would do, but then we are only good as as how we understand the problem. So then for us to understand the problem perfectly, we have to interact with the other teams within the insurance company, and we have to understand the basics. And so when it comes to learning, I would say that it's a two-way street. Like, we have to learn what they do, and they have to learn what we do, so as to come up with a good AI product. I think, that's it from my side. I'll pass it over to Yasir.
I don't disagree with anything what you said, but life is not that ivory tower simple. Usually in the insurance space and banking in general, it's a compromise minimization function. The amount of data available on the systems is crappy. Half the system is sitting in mainframes. Half the budget and the sponsors might have a complete different vision of what you want. Half of it is like you're stuck in project management and CFO budgets. So I
Scare
can
people away from insurance.
I mean, that's
No,
the
you're just
reality,
being
right?
honest.
So, and innovation obviously is scary in general. So I can give you an example from us, and that's the reason why I moved to the startup world, by the way, because I got fed up with the bureaucracy. If like, for example, one example on our side, when we were building a chatbot with customer data for them to query across different dimensions of reporting and come up with customized reporting. So simple use case, reporting could be around violation for PHI data or what the employees are doing within a customer base. So we thought about different kind of use cases where data is available, where the data is from data blobs, unstructured data, semi-structured data, and structured data, obviously. But the the constraint was you can't send the data externally to any foundational pre-trained LLM model. And so then we had to go back in terms of, do we need to build our own LLM model, foundational model, and having that 60 terabyte model downloaded and start using was a big constraint. And doing that maybe in a large financial services firm is possible. Deploying that on a Snowflake and then running it from there maybe is possible. So there's obviously compromises you're making in terms of what can be deployed. Ultimately, what we really went back to at bare bones in terms of like thinking through taking a text from a user, converting that into an SQL, and then querying the SQL within the internal database so everything stays self-contained within the system. And the idea was we want to put this out to see what the usage is, store the prompts, and then go from there and learn from that system. And that was an iterative approach which we could deploy within weeks. In insurance space, access to data and hopping 5 different teams to get access to it, hopping into your engineering team to run the data and provide some insights looking at data quality, looking at in terms of completeness, accuracy of the information set. Those are so many steps you need to make. That's like 6 months right there in terms of even before you start building a model. So thinking small in terms of the use cases from an individual bottoms-up perspective is probably the best. But the worry obviously is, as I was saying earlier, there's so much pressure from a board level in this whole space that there'll be top-down pressures in terms of deploying something. So the risks are magnified tremendously in this particular wave of a data innovation. I think Q&A from the audience.
Yeah, I have one thing to add. We're building AI system to help improve our business, right? Our business process, performance, and customer. We're not take the best AI system and trying to make our business work with the new system. I'll make that very clear because insurance is pretty complete process. And that's why the domain knowledge, the multidiscipline, talent pool is very important. Just to give you an example, the claims. My team actually use text data from claim while we build a model. And for example, if you did a body injury, you almost have to become a doctor to read the notes. So I went to the healthcare session, Vital. The notes they showed up similar. The notes were saying, also, wow, that's similar, right? If you look in auto insurance, some of the evaluate the damages, you have to be really expert in the cars. Sometimes you may know what did they do with the car, what were they doing. So I'm not getting that specific use cases. Similar with property, you have to be very familiar with the material, for example, or with the weather. So I would say the fascinating side of insurance is not boring. Actually, open eyes. Oh my God, I have to learn such a wide range of domain knowledge, and also the business process change. So I would say building the AI system for insurance, you have to adapt that with your business process. Maybe your process needs to be tweaked as the AI system can be able to automate, right? Or slightly tweak your process. But these two have to be going hand in hand.
I wanted to add just one thing. I know we're running out of time here. This is actually a quote out of the CIO Dive, and it was an interview that CIO Dive did with Monica Caldas, one of the leading women in technology. She's also Liberty Mutual's CIO. If you don't know her, you should look her up. Monica Caldas. She's originally from Portugal. You'll love her. Anyway, communicating strategy in language that emphasizes business objectives remains a holy grail for technology leaders. Communicating strategy in language that emphasizes business objectives remains a holy grail for tech leaders. I just wanted to close my section with that to say that's great. That's something to crack.
Thanks, Kemi. So thank you all for your valuable insights. So I would say that it's clear that AI is making a gigantic impact on the insurance sector. I would say from claims processing to underwriting and all the other sectors in that field. So I would like to extend my gratitude to all the panelists for taking the time to shed some light on how AI is revolutionizing the insurance industry. And I would also like to point out that with immense potential comes, responsibility. So by fostering ethical AI practice, promoting collaboration, and maintaining a human-centric approach, we can navigate through these challenges and make the best use of AI as the technology to innovate different processes within the insurance sector. So I would also like to thank all of you for taking the time to join us in this panel. Let's keep continuing, innovating, and shaping the future of insurance industry together. Thank you.
Thank you.